Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Grand Trunk Flint Subdivision. This is a layout update for April. I think our last video was back in January. We've got a lot done since January. I've built quite a few buildings. I've glued some track down. I've installed some Tam Valley switches. I've operated a little bit here and there, testing out some of the track work that I've put down. I'm replacing some of my sectional track with flex track. So I'll get off camera here and then I'll take you for a walk around and show you what's been done. Here we are at Imlay City. This station is a Walthers kit. It's the Cornerstone Depot. It was a fun kit to build. It's got the gingerbread detail on the eaves. It's painted in Grand Trunk blue and white scheme. We'll tour around there. This is one of the buildings I've recently completed. Took me about 2 days to do. It was a fun little kit. Let's take a look at the rest of Imlay City. So starting down towards the Flint end, this is Elmont Street. This has been recently paved. Some of the scenery has been done. I have sculpted molded back into the tunnel. This track in the foreground here by the trees has been glued down and is awaiting ballast. So we head around. There's the grain elevator, which will soon get some more buildings. A couple of cars in there. So we're heading west now towards downtown Imlay City. This is just a mock-up. Kind of got a road and a parking spot. Kind of a template there. This is, I believe, M24, the state highway, going through Imlay City. That's the farm pasture where the barnyard and barn will be. And then here's some of the trees I've been making. That's kind of the scene I'm going to be setting. It's going to be mid-fall, September, October. We'll pan back down and show you kind of the setup that way. Here's a shot looking into Port Huron. I've completed this little scene here. This is Tapan Junction. This is the tower that controls Tapan, and this is where the Flint Subdivision meets up with the Mount Clemens Subdivision, which comes out of Detroit. From the Detroit would be to the south. This is the paper mill area. So Port Huron paper. I've added this spur here. And I've added that spur there. Some CN cars getting ready to be loaded with paper from the warehouse. Let's do a little bit of a walk around. We have a yard office here. I'll look down in the yard here. So this train that's sitting here on the arrival track is about as long as I can go. It's 10 cars, 2 locomotives, and a caboose. So that was recently arrived into the yard. It'll switch off the Detroit and Mackinac cars, the Grand Trunk cars. These will all go to the paper mill. These cars right here, these cylinder hopper cars, they'll go to paper mill as well. And then these grain cars will go to Imlay City. Out of Port Huron, we got the paper job. We have the transfer run from Detroit to Port Huron and Port Huron to Detroit with automotive supplies. Trains coming from Sarnia, Ontario, carrying assembled cars from St. Catharines General Motors plant and elsewhere. Can take cars either through the main line, Flint Subdivision to Chicago, or down in the Mount Clemens line into Detroit. That's kind of a look down into that way. This is kind of just a bench right now with holding my laptop, and it's where I assemble a lot of my models at. The model I finished after the depot was this building down here. This is my power plant. Also a Walthers kit. This is the modern power plant. Really hard to paint white. I painted it probably 4 or 5 layers of paint on that to get it to look that bad. So I got 3 tracks here in my power plant. I got this here as an arrival track, and there's some D&Ms on there. It can hold approximately 10 cars. There's my Detroit terminal switcher there. There we go. Local 10101. This is kind of a side storage track over here, and this is a runaround / departure track. So the locomotive will switch it back into this tailing track and then shove the empty cars down the line and to be picked up by a 4-axle, GP9 or GP38-2. There is no 6-axle locomotives allowed in this region due to weight and bridge restrictions. On the actual rail line, there's a drawbridge. I didn't have space to mount it. I really wanted to. The Black River Bridge, kind of a cool old bridge, but just no room for it. So anyways, I got one more building to show you. It was one of the most difficult builds I've had yet to date. And obviously that's the tunnel going to Sarnia, Ontario. Very difficult, challenging, a lot of fun. One of those buildings I've had for a couple years and just been waiting to put it together. So I'll show that to you now. This here is the roundhouse. This roundhouse will be located underneath my stairway. The Flint subdivision did not have a roundhouse in Flint. The nearest roundhouse would have been in Durand, Michigan, and the next one would have been on the Holly subdivision in Pontiac, Michigan. The roundhouse there serviced the Grand Trunk's commuter fleet. So I painted them Morenci orange, which is how the Pontiac was painted. Very similar. It's got the nice little cement detail. Just a really cool kit. The top has been cemented in sections, so these lift out like so, and you can see the detail on there. I can zoom in. I got the safety stripes. Everything's been weathered. Beams are painted and stained. That's in a rail brown, I believe. But just a really challenging kit. Learned a lot. 2 mistakes I made is I glued the pits on right away, and then I glue these feeders on, and as you can see, those wires are so stiff I can't plant it anywhere. It's got to be elevated. But man, love this kit. So some plans for the upcoming future. I'd like to work on my lighting. Start building my benchwork for where my roundhouse is going to go. It's going to have a return loop. So trains coming into Flint can turn around behind the roundhouse and pop out into what's essentially Sarnia staging. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. More videos to come. I plan on having a operating video with some trains running here shortly for you. Thanks again.